Adhyayana. Without further delay, I would like to call upon Dr. Muridhar Sharma sir, STM CODB, to take over the session. Welcome to you, sir.
Start from the point where we had stopped last week. Like now, in the omens or the shakunas, which a physician would see before he sees the patient, and some of them would be a sign of good omen, and some may be a bad omen. Now, these omens, according to Sushruta, could also be related to the diseases as well as the environmental factors. मृदुः शीतो अनुकूलश्च सुगन्धिश्च अनिलशुभः खर उष्ण अनिलगन्धश्च अनिष्टगन्धश्च प्रतिलोमश्च गर्हितः. The breeze, the air which is flowing in, if it is cold and if it has a pleasant smell, then it's a sign of good sign. It's a good sign, like where the prognosis could be good. Whereas if there is a foul smell and then air is towards the opposite side, then it would be a bad sign. ग्रंथ्य अर्बुदादिषु सदा क्षीर शब्दस्तु पूजितः वित्रति उदरगुल्मेषु भेद शब्दस्तसेवितः रक्तपित्तादिसारेषु वृद्ध शब्द प्रशस्ते एवं व्याधि विशेषेण निमित्तम् उपधारयेत्. The nimitta also could be according to the possible disease conditions. The diseases which require surgical conditions like granthya arbuda, surgical treatment of excision, a word which resembles that of the excision, cutting, would be a pleasant, a good sign, whereas in case of like diseases like Vidradi Udara, where you have to make an incision, words which have a meaning of something like penetrating in Bheda Shabda, that's a good sign. Or where there is a excess of flow like Rakta Vittati Sara, Ruddha Shabda, blocking, is a good sign. This way, you have to think of the possible words which you hear as you go towards the patient and decide about the possible omen. तथैव आकृष्टः कष्टम् आक्रन्दितरुदितस्वनाः सत्यां वातपुरुषाणां शब्दो वै गर्दभ उष्टयोः. The weeping sound of weeping or shouting, these are not a good signs as such. प्रतिषिद्धं तदा भग्नं शुद्धं स्खलितमाहं दौर्मन्यस्य च वैद्यस्य यात्रायां न प्रशस्यते. A history of fracture or a falling down, if as the physician moves towards the patient, if he falls down or if there is something like blocking or fractures, etc., then or if there is an unpleasant news coming to the physician, that's also not a good sign. प्रवेशे अपि एतद् उद्देशात् अपेक्षं तथा आतुरे प्रतिद्वारं गृहीतस्य पुनरेतन्न गण्यते. Till these women should be observed till you reach to the patient's house. The signs which you are seeing within the patient's house, they are not to be considered. केश भस्म अस्ति काष्ठ अश्म तुष कार्पास कंटकाः खट्वा ऊर्ध्वपादाः मध्यपाः वसा तैलं तिलास्तृणं नपुंसक व्यंग भग्न नग्न मुंड असिताम्बराः प्रस्थाने वा प्रवेशे वा निश्यन्ते दर्शनं गताः. Once you enter into the patient's house, if you see these materials like hairs, ash or bones or pieces of wood or the cotton or even these spikes like or a cot where it was reverted, cot which is kept in a reverse fashion, urdhvada, that's kept reverse fashion, or madhyapaha, alcohol or vasa, taila, tila. These are, if you see a napumsaka or a patient with physical deformity, person with physical deformities as you enter into the home, then that's not a good sign as such. भाण्डानां संकरस्थानां स्थानात् संचारणं तथा निखात उत्पाटनं भङ्गः पतनं निगमस्तदा वैद्य आसन अवसादो वा रोगी वा स्यात् अधुमुखः वैद्यं सम्भाषमाणो अङ्गं कुड्यमानः तरणामे वा प्रमृत्याद्वा धुनीयाद्वा करौ पृष्ठं शिरस्तदा हस्तं च आकृष्य वैद्यस्य नसेत् शिरसि चोरसि यो वैद्यम् उन्मुखः पश्यन् उन्मार्ष्टि स्वाङ्गमातुरः न स सिद्ध्यति वैद्यो वा गृहे यस्य न पूज्यते भवने पूज्यते वापि यस्य वैद्यस्य सिद्ध्यति. Now, once you enter into the house and then as you communicate to the patient, if we hear the sounds of the vessels being hit together or vessels being pulled out, like that sound of vessels being pulled away, or if you hear the sound of some digging or breaking, or somebody goes out as the physician enters in, and if the patient is looking downwards as the and doesn't have a eye-to-eye contact with the patient, or if the patient is having hitting his cot as the patient is talking to the communicating with the physician, or if the patient is rubbing his hands or his hands or maybe the back, or if the patient pulls the hand, physician's hand keeps it over his head or over thorax, or when the physician is looking upwards and if the patient is not looking towards the physician, if there is no eyes to eyes contact, these are all the poor signs. It shows that the patient is somewhat disoriented. These are all the possible clinical signs of a disorientation of the patient. And if the patient, the physician is not respected in the patient's house, that too is a bad sign as well. Shubham, Shubheshu, Dutavishu, Ashubham, Ashubheshu, Da, Adrasya Dhum Tasmat, Dutavim Rakshet, Dishaka. So in general, whenever there is something which is pleasant or it is auspicious, that has to be recognized, and based upon that auspicious signs, you will have to decide whether that patient has to be treated or not. The next part is about swapna or the dreams. Dreams are also considered as a possible signs of predicting the prognosis. Swapnan adapprokshami maranaya shubhaya suhuto yamsha pashyanti vyadito va swayam tatha sneha bhekta sharirasya. Now, a swapna or the dreams seen by the patient or patient's friends or relatives, they have to be considered, and this can be a sign of a possible outcome. स्नेह अभ्यक्त शरीरस्तु करभ व्याघ्र गर्दभेहि वराहेहि महिषैर्वापि यो याया दक्षिणाङ्कः रक्ताम्बरधरा कृष्णा हसन्ति मुक्तमूर्धजा यं च आकर्षति बद्ध्वा स्त्री नृत्यन्ति दक्षिणाङ्कम् अन्तावसायिभिः यो वा आकृष्यते दक्षिणाङ्कः परिष्वजेरन् यं वापि प्रेताः प्रव्रजितान् तथा मुहुः आघ्रायते यस्तु श्वपदैः विकृताननैः पिबेत् मधुतैलं यो पङ्के अवसीदति पङ्कप्रदीप्तगात्रो वा प्रनृत्येत प्रहसेत् तथा निरम्बरश्च यो रक्तां धारयेत् शिरसा सृजं यस्य वंशो नलो वापि कालो वा उरसि जायते. Now, dreams which could be sign of poor prognosis are if a person has a dream of having applied oil over the body, or if he is attacked by some wild animals like they are wild animals or domestic animals, and if a person is moving towards the southern side, or if a person is having red color dress or black color dress, and if he is laughing, and if he sees a woman with red color or black color dress and laughing and without having a proper hair pruning, maintenance of the hairs, or if a lady is dancing towards the right and moving towards the right side, or a person who is being pulled by someone towards the southern side, Parishvajeranvayo vapi pretah pravajila. If the pretas is the possible your perceptions of the souls after death, if they are surrounding the person, or if a person feels like in the dream, like the dogs or other animals would be smelling his body, or if somebody drinks madhu, honey, or the oil, then that's, or if person seems to dip in dirt as such, or if the body is applied with the dirt and somebody dances with that dirt over the body, or if if there is no cloth, without cloth, if naked person, or if a person has a red colored flowers over his head, these are all the signs of poor possibility. Yamwa matsyo krase dyo va jananim pravishet naraha पौरताग्रात पतेद्यो वा श्वभ्रे वा तमसा आवृते ह्रियेत स्रोतसा यो वा मौण्ड्यम् अवाप्नुयात् पराजीयेत बध्येत काकाद्ये वा अभिभूयते पतनं तारकादीनां प्रणाशं दीपचक्षुषोः यः पश्येत् देवतानां प्रकम्पम् अवनेह तथा यस्य छर्दि विनियोगो वा दशनाः प्रपतन्ति वा शान्मलीं किंशुकं यूपं वल्मीकं पारिभद्रकं पुष्पाढ्यं कोविदारं वा चितां वायु अधिरोहति कार्पासतैलपिण्याकलोहानि लवणं तिलानि लभेत अश्नित वा पक्वम् अन्नं यश्च पिबेत् सुरां स्वस्थः सलभते व्याधिं व्याधितो मृत्युमिच्छति. Now, these are all the dreams which can produce a disease in a healthy person, or a diseased person may even die if anybody sees these dreams. And the dreams are Yamwa Matsyo Praset. If somebody is grabbed by a fish, or if somebody feels like entering into his mother's womb, entering back to mother's womb, or if somebody feels like falling from the hills or from the sky, or in a dark area, or if somebody feels like or has the dream of having his srotas or these tunnels of the body being blocked or curved, like, or if is defeated by birds or animals, or if the lights go off all of a sudden, or the vision goes off, or if somebody sees the earthquake, or the feeling of that deities, the idols of the right is falling down, or as somebody feels like vomiting and during the vomiting the teeth also fall off, or if somebody claims the trees of Shalmani, Kimchuka, Yupa, etc., or if somebody tries or claims the Chita, that fire where the dead bodies are burned, if somebody sees Karpasa, Taila, Punyagaloha, the cotton, oil, or maybe the dried cakes, or metal, or even salt, tila, jinjili, these are all, if they are seen or they are taken in, or if somebody drinks alcohol during the dream, so alcohol drinking in the dream also could be a sign of impending disease or impending death. यथात्सों प्रकृतिस्वप्नो विस्मृतो विहरस्तदा चिन्ताकृतो दिवादृष्टो भवन्ति अपरदास्कृते. If there is a swapna or a dream which is produced due to something which was seen just the previous day, or if he is worried about certain issues and they are seen in the dream, then they are not farada, they are not going to give the effect. So if somebody has already some concern about certain issue, and in the dream he sees the same concern, they are not going to give the same effect. So only when there is an unexpected, unseen effect, fact there, then it has to be considered as a possible woman. Jolitanam Shunam Sakyam Kapisankyat Shoshinam Unmade Rakshasi Prete Hapasmare Pravartan Yumahat Saranam Toyabanam Snehasya Kushinam Gulmesh Sthavarutpati Poste Murdi Shirodi Shashkuri Bhakshanam Chadyam Adhwa Shwasapipasayo Haridram Bodhanam Api Asisya Panduroginaha Raktavitti Pribet Yastu Shonitam Savinashyati. Now, certain of those dreams they are very specific to the disease condition. A person with the jara, if he develops friendship with the dogs, or he is very affiliated to a dog, or a monkey, in a patient of Shosha, Radha patients, if he feels like he has friendship with some monkey in dreams, or Unmade Rakshasi, Unmada, in case of Unmada, if somebody has a feeling like friendship with the Rakshasas, Preti Apasmare, in Apasmara Pretas, or Meha Tisaranam Toyapanam, Meha and Atisara patients, if they drink water or drink oil in patient of Kusta, Gulmesha Stavropratihi. In Gulma, if somebody sees some plants going acid, Stavroprati Koste over the abdomen, or Murti Shiroriji. In patients with a headache, if there is a plant growing over the head, then that too is a sign of poor prognosis. Shashkuli Bhakshanam Chadyam, patient with chardi vomiting, if he eats some chakuri like food, and the Adha Shwasa Pipasayo, walking a long distance in a patient of Shwasa, Haridam Bodhanam Api SSR Pandurogina. In a Pandurogi, if he eats yellow colored food substances, or Raktapitti way just shown them. In a Raktapitta, if somebody feels like drinking blood, then that too is a poor sign and it's considered as a Arishta. Swapnan evam vidhan drisva pratutthaye yatman दद्यात् मांसान् स्थिलान् लोहान् विप्रेभ्यः काञ्चनं तथा जपेच्चापि शुभान् मन्त्रान् गायत्रीं त्रिपुरां तथा दृष्ट्वा तु प्रथमे यामे स्वप्याध्यात्वा पुनः शुभं जपेद्वा अन्यतमं वेदं ब्रह्मचारी समाहितः न च आचक्षीत कस्मैचित् दृष्ट्वा स्वप्नम् अशोभनं देवता आयतने चैव वसेत् रात्रित्रयं तथा विप्रांश्च पूजये नित्यं दुःस्वप्नात् प्रविमुच्यते. If somebody sees some this bad omen as a dream, then there has to be some resolution. That resolution procedures are you will have to give a dana or give either masha, tila, loha, etc. to brahmanas as dana, or you will have to have recite the mantras like Gayatri or Veda mantras, or that's how you are not supposed to tell the description of your dream to somebody else. You will have to maybe better to stay in a temple, Devatayatane temple, or where there is some auspicious environment there, and you will have to worship Viprams, Pujayata, worship Vipras, the knowledgeable persons. A dream seen in first part of the night, and if I should be, you know, if at all it is seen and repeated again in the second part of the night, then a first part of the dream seen in the first part of the night, if it is seen again repeated in the second part of the night, then you will have to now worship or read the Vedas. So that's a sign of poor prognosis. So that's about the poor prognosis swapnas. Now certain of the swapnas are the dreams which could be pleasant or which could be an auspicious sign. Those are Athamurbham Rakshami Prashastam Supnadarsanam Devan Dvijan Go Rushabhan Jivadat Suhudam Nripan Samigdham Agnim Sadhumsha Nirmalan Jalanja Pashyet Kalyana Labhaya Vyadheha Apagamaya Ja Mamsam Matsyan Sajah Shwetaha Vasansi Chapalani Ja Labheta Dhana Labhaya Vyadheha Apagamaya Ja महाप्रासाद सफल वृक्ष वारण पर्वतान् आरोहेत द्रव्यलाभाय व्याधेः अपगमाय च नदी नद समुद्रांश्च क्षुभितान् कलशोदकान् तरेत् कल्याणलाभाय व्याधेः अपगमाय च उरगो वा जलौको वा भ्रमरो वा पिबान् यं दशेत आरोग्यं निर्दिशेत् तस्य धनलाभं च बुद्धिमान् एवं रूपान् शुभान् स्वप्नान् यः पश्येत् व्याधितो नरः स दीर्घायुरिति ज्ञेयः तस्मै कर्म समाचरेत्. Now, Prashasta Swapnas, those Swapnas which are auspicious signs are those who see gods, Bijan, Brahmanas, Go Vrishabhan, cows, calves, etc. In a living condition, and those who see their friends or kings in the night or in the dreams, or Samidham Agnim, the fire and the fuel for the fire, Sadhumsha, sannyasis, Nirmalajara, clean water, if they are seen in the dreams, they are considered to be good for the health of the life of the person. Kalyana Labhaya. You will have the happiness in future, or Vyadheha Apagamaya. It can be a sign or predicting about a possible cure of the disease. Mamsam Matsyan, if somebody sees flesh or fish or Sajah Mala, these garlands, and white cloths and fruits, these are predict about Dhanalabha, that's gaining money, or Vyadheha Pagama. Vyadheha Pagama is one of the common outcome of a pleasant dreams. If somebody sees Mahaprasada, a big house, or Sapal Vriksha, a tree with the fruits, or Varana Parvata, the either sea or the mountains, or if somebody climbs the mountains, these are sign of Dravyalabha, possible gain or Vyadheha Pagama. Nadi Nada Samudramsha Kshubitana, if you see a river or Samudra, the sea, in maybe turbid condition, with the turbid water, and if somebody swims across this nadi in the dream, that's a sign of Kalyana Labhaya, your success in life, and Vyadeha Puramah. Urakova Jalokova, seeing snakes, Jaloka, or Bhamara, or if somebody of these creatures, insects or the snakes, bite someone, then it could be a sign of health or dhanalabha. So these are the possible Shubha Swapna. Now, in Charaka Sharira, in Sushruta Sharira, the Swapnas are described in a different manner. And that the description is Purvadehan Bhutams Bhutatma Swagata Prabhu Rajo Yuktena Masa Granati Arthan Shubhashvana. The Atma, because of Purvadehan Bhuta, the Swapna is seen due to the Rajas. So there is a linkage between the dream seen and the previous Janma, birth as such. In Charaka Indriyasthana, the Swapnas or dreams are described in a different manner, and something which seems to be more practical. Like Manohanam Purnatvat Doshai Atibanehi Tribihi Strotasam Dharanam Swapnan Kale Pashyati Dharme Nati Prasuptaha Purushaha Sapalan Apalan Stata Indriyeshan Mansa Swapnan Pashyatane Kada. The due to Manoha Srotas being blocked by the dosha, then because of the abnormality of the srotas, the swapna dreams are seen, and the dreams are seen in the later phase of the sleep. Now also it's known, like in the sleep you have two stages, REM and NREM, rigorous eye movement stage and the non-rigorous eye movement stage. Dreams are always seen and memorized only when they are felt in the rigorous eye movement state, in the right sleep condition. So that's one. Then Drishtam Shruta Anubhutam Cha Prastitam Kalpitam Tata Bhavikam Dosham Teva Swapnam Saptavidham Viduho. Charaka Indriyasthana says about the Swapna of 7 types, and they are Drishtam, something which you have seen, Shruta Anubhutam Cha, something which is heard or something which is experienced, or Pratitam, if somebody is deciding for somebody, Kalpitam, some notions which you are already built up in the body, Bhavikam, it could be of suggestive of future, Doshadam, due to the dosha in the body, the Swapna Pudaka. So, causes of the dreams could be any of these. And majority of the dreams, they are just as Shruta Anubhuta. Whatever you have heard or whatever you have experienced or whatever you are really concerned, like they are concerned, they may be reflected in the form of the dream. Tatra Panchamidam Purvam Aparam Vishagati Cheta Diva Swapnam Atishaswam Atidirghanja Buddhimana Drishtaha Prathamaratreya Swapnaha So Anyaparo Bhaveta Naswape Dyam Punam Drisva Sasadya Syat Mahaparaha Akalyanam Apiswapnam Drisva Tatrivaya Punaha Pashyet Saumyam Shubhakaram Tasya Vidya Shubham Palam. A swapna could be apalam. It may not produce the same effect if somebody sees the dream during the daytime sleep, diva swapna. If somebody sleeps in the daytime and if there is a dream scene, then that's not going to have the effect. A dream felt during after a very short duration or very long duration also would not produce the same effect. A dream seen in the first part of the night, Prathama in the early part of the night, it may not have the same effect. It will be alpha. The same effect may not be seen. If some after seeing the sleep, after seeing the dream, if the person cannot sleep further, there is no sleep further, then it will be Mahabara. The effect will be more. If at all there is a unpleasant dream scene followed by a pleasant dream, then that you will have to consider the Shubha effect, the pleasant effect as such. As far as the dreams are concerned, modern psychology has some classification or some notion about the dreams as such, and the dream theory is again a bit confusing. Like there is a lot of issues about that dreams in the contemporary science. In the psychology, the dreams and dream analysis is one of the major topics, but it's not a part of the medicinal issue. It's about deciding about the personality and maybe to a certain extent predicting about the future. Now, the theory about the dream is established by, or rather presented very strongly by Sigmund Freud, and according to his, the dreams represent unconscious desires, the bhavitam, thoughts, that's again bhavikam, wish fulfillment, practicum, or motivations, whatever you have observed. Like. There are certain theories in the current psychology accepts certain theories about the dreams, and those theories are one, the threat stimulation theory, and it should be seen as a biological defense mechanism. And that biological defense mechanism in the sense dosha, where due to the changes which are occurring in the body and they are made to be known, and this is the method of making the body sense the possible complications. This is what's described in the current psychology facts as such. It's something somewhat related to the theory of Swapna as a woman. I don't say that whatever Sushruta or Charaka says is absolutely same now, because in the present day situation you may not see the same form of the dreams, because the dreams would be always some reflection of whatever you have experienced, but there is some relationship between the possible physiological conditions and the possible outcome of the dream as such. And this is what we say as the threat stimulation theory, and this is one of the established theories which explain the dream from the current psychiatric point of view. Then another of the theory is the expectation fulfillment theory is to discharge emotional arousals. Those who have very strong emotions, and those emotions have to be suppressed by the body or managed by the body, and this is one of that arousal, that safety valve, like which the emotions are left out or released as. Then a neurobiological theory, that's all the physiological activities of the body or all the experiences now are to be understood with the neurobiology, and neurobiological theory is a activation synthesis theory which says that dreams don't actually mean anything. They are merely electrical brain impulses that pull random thoughts and images. This is one view of the psychiatry. Now, which of the theory is absolutely true, which of the theory is not true, again still it's a area of controversy. These are all the possible theories which are accepted by the current principles of the psychology now. Then continual activation theory is dreaming is a result of brain activation and synthesis, and it states that it's a process of encoding or transferring data from short-term memory to long-term memory through a process called consolidation. This again is one of the theories. Which of the theory is absolutely true or not is doubtful. Then in the medicine, of course, all these omens and the dreams now are not part of the evidence-based medicine now. But still, there are lots of literature, lots of experiences of different physicians who have a intuition and metacognition in medical education as well as in medical practice. And one of the book which has lots of such stimulation. I don't say that this is a standard book for medicine, but very interesting episodes are there, and somebody who is interested in reading can read this book. I suggest that you can read this book, Keys to Developing Experience, Expertise in Medical Practice. It's written by a physician, and experience of many physicians where intuition and metacognition in their practice dealing with the patients are recorded. I am not saying that whatever the Sushruta has said is reflected over there, but something which resembles this are noted, and in the current medicine also, though it's not a part of the mainstream medicine, such thoughts are still being used. If at all anyone is more interested in the literature which is presented in this aspect, there are many of the literature which you can see, and these very important, or rather I would say not important, but curious, very interesting articles. I have given you the reference, so if at all you are interested, you may go through the references and can read that. Of course, intuition and evidence is definitely not considered as a part of the current evidence-based medicine, and they are considered as uneasy bedfellows. But still, they are not completely denied. So there is a bit of a confusion about that importance of the team in the current medicine. So इति सुश्रुतसंहितां सुतस्थाने विपरीत अविपरीत स्वप्न निदर्शनीय नाम एकोनत्रिंशत्तमोऽध्यायः. Deep concern about the patient gives an intuitive vision to the physician. That's the true one. And Duta Shakuna may be interpreted as intuitive vision now, Dreams are popularly believed to reflect the real events of life. That's how it's felt now. With this, we'll conclude that chapter, and next we'll go into the next chapter, 30th chapter. अतः पञ्चेन्द्रियार्थविप्रतिपत्तिम् अध्यायं व्याख्यास्यामः यथोवाच भगवान् धन्वन्तरिः. Now, impending death or possible nearby death experiences felt by a patient, and by which you can predict about the possible death. That's what is described in the Pratipatti. As the person is very nearing death, there will be certain specific experiences, and those are to be noted, and they could be a sign of possible impending death in a patient. शरीरशीलयोः यस्य प्रकृतेः विकृतिः भवेत् तत्तु अरिष्टं समासेन व्यासतस्तु निबोधने. In general, a normal behavior or normal functioning of the body, when it is reverted or when it is has become abnormal, then that's a sign of impending death as such. And the description is श्नोति विविधान् शब्दान् यो दिव्यानाम् अभावतः समुद्रपुरमेघानाम् असम्पत्तौ च निस्वनान् तान् स्वनान् अवगम्नाति मन्यते च अन्यशब्दवत्. ग्राम्य आरण्य स्वानांश्चापि विपरीतान् श्नोति च. विषशब्देषु रमते सुहृत् शब्देषु कुप्यते न श्नोति यो अकस्मात् तं ब्रुवन्ति कदायुषम्. Hallucinations of perception of the sound is one, and this description would be if somebody hears a continuous sound of a roaring sea or a cloud or in the absence of those, then that's a sign of that's a sign like it could be impending death. Or if somebody is not able to hear the sounds properly, or if somebody is hearing sounds in a different manner, instead of the normal pattern, if he sounds like Gramya Aranya Swaraha, the sounds of surroundings, environment sounds are felt as something else as it. Or if somebody hates certain sounds which are really helpful or of friendly sounds, they are hated, or the other way, reverse. Sounds which are not really acceptable in general, they are enjoyed by a person. These are all the signs of impending death. So, I will summarize this as abnormalities or hallucinations of perception of the sound sense. Similarly, perception of the touch sense and heat and cold sense. यस्तु उष्णमेव गृह्णाति शीतम् उष्णं च शीतवत् सञ्जातशीतपिडकः यश्च दाह्येन पीड्यते उष्णघातो अतिमात्रं च यः शीतेन प्रवेपते प्रहारान् नाभिजानाति यो अङ्गच्छेदम् अथापि वा पांशुना इव अवकरिणानि यश्च गात्राणि मन्यते वर्ण अन्यथा च राज्यो वा यस्य गात्रे भवन्ति. A person who feels like a reversal of the sensation of heat and cold, so a hot object may be felt as cold and the reverse, or if a person has a burning, rather inflamed lesion over the surface, but still he feels cold, or vice versa, if there is a non-inflammatory swelling and he feels the burning sensation, or if there is a abnormality of the sensation where he doesn't sense the hitting or the even cutting sense, deep sensations are not felt, or if somebody feels something like applied over the body, continuously having the Pamshana Yoga Karnani, as if some particles are over the body in the absence of such a material, or a changes in the color would be a impending sign. That's again is a abnormality of the perception, sensory perception of the skin. स्नातामृतं चापि भजन्ते नीलमुक्षिकाः. Even after taking bath, if the flies and insects come to the body, that also is a sign of possible death. Sugandhirva atiyo akasmat bhruvanti gatayusham. If there is a smell coming from the body, those smells are of different sorts, which could be felt by the insects, which could be attracting the insects, or which would be a pleasant smell, that too could be a sign of impending death. विपरीतेन गृह्णाति रसान्यश्च उपयोगितान् उपयुक्ताः क्रमाद् यस्य रसाः दोषाभिवृद्धेः यस्य दोषाग्निसाम्यं च कुर्युः मिथ्योपयोजितः यो वा रसान् संवेदी गतासुं च प्रचक्षते. A perception of the taste when it is reversed, if it's not the same taste which is given and perceived, there is a gap between the two, or A rasa which produces a effect other than what is the common effects like taste, which some of those tastes which would be producing a deformity or which are not really good for the body, and if they produce some relief to the patient, apatya produces a relief to the patient, that too is a sign of impending death. सुगंधम वेति दुर्गंधम दुर्गंधस्य सुगंधितम गृह्णीते वा अन्यथा गंधम शांते दीपे च नीरजः यो वा गंधम न जानाति गतासुंति मे दृश्येत. A similar issue is about the sense of smell. If a pleasant smell is felt as a unpleasant smell or the reverse, and or if somebody is not able to feel the sense at all, these are considered as a possible impending death or abnormalities of the sensations. So, in all summary, it's about the abnormalities of the sensory organs and sensory perception. द्वन्द्वानि उष्णहिमादीनि कालावस्थादिशस्तदा विपरीतेन गृह्णाति भवान् अन्य भावान् अन्यांश यो नरः. All that, whatever you perceive around you, even the time sense, the surrounding, your directions around, if they are felt in a abnormal manner or in a opposite manner, south being north being south, or so on. So it's something like where there is a behavioral abnormalities and there is a loss of coordination as such. That's a sign of the impending death. That's in general what we call as the disorientation. A disorientation is a sign of a possible death. Then the other perceptions which could be experienced by a person in a nearing death are Diva Jyotish Yashtamshi Jolitaniva Pashyati Ratro Suryo Jolantam ja Divava Chandravachasam. If somebody who sees the artificial light in the daytime and sun in the night, these are Divava Chandravachasam. Seeing moon in the daytime also could be a sign of impending death. अमो उपप्लवेश्च शक्र चाकल तडित गुणान तडित ततो असितान योवा निर्मले गगने घनान. He sees a cloud in a clear sky, or if somebody feels like raining in a condition where there is no rain. विमान प्रासादैः यश्च संकृतं संकुलं अंबरं यश्च अनिलं मूर्तिमन्तं अंतरिक्षं च पश्यति. If somebody feels like having a Vimanayana, flying in a flight, or living in a house or palace, which is not really the true asset, or if somebody feels like having a cloth around, these are not dreams, these are the disorientation experiences. If somebody sees the air visible, air becomes visible, then too that's a sign of death. धमनी हारवासो बिहि आवता बिहि मोदिनां प्रदीप्तां युलोकं च यो प्लुतं इव अंभसा. If somebody sees धूमनिहार वासो बिहि, if somebody sees their surroundings are surrounded by the smoke or maybe fog or cloth, etc., and if somebody sees like the whole world around him is a set fire, then that too is a possible death, near death experience. भूमिम अष्टपदाकारं रेखाभिर्यश्च पश्यति न पश्यति सनक्षत्राम्यश्च देवीम् अरुन्धतीं ध्रुवम् आकाशगङ्गं वदन्ति गताविषम्. If somebody sees that the bhumi, the earth is having ashtapadakara, octagonal like around, or if somebody sees some signs like lines, etc., if he is not able to see the nakshatra stars at night, and particularly Arundhati nakshatra is not seen, or if he is not able to see the Akasha Ganga, then that's the sign of Gataisha. Jyotsna Adarsha Usnapoyeshu Chayam Yashtana Pashyati Pashyati Ekakahinam va Vikritam va Anyasattajam Shokata Kankarudranam Pretanam Visharakshasam Pishacha Uraganaganam Bhutanam Vikritam Api Yoga Mayura Kantabam Vidhumum Manimikshate Atrasya Bhaven Mrityu Swasto Vyatitam Apniyada. The near-death experiences the patient may experience, like either some organs are lost or organs are not functioning, or you see some wild animals and birds, or maybe the celestial bodies, then that too could be a sign of impending death. Now, impending death and near-death experience is one of the areas which are now studied to a great extent throughout, and the summary of this. Now, I have just collected a material from a summary of near-death experiences. Near-death experiences are now known to be there, and they are being recorded, and they are analyzed. The basic issue of analysis of this near-death experience is there is a cognitive feature, the same sensations of different sorts, whatever we have discussed, the same is a part of the near-death experience, or effective features like where you may see some abnormalities of the functions, or paranormal features, something which is related to the celestial body, something which is not really experienced as such. These also are the possible signs, or it could be transcendental, related to the meditation, or maybe something of the worshipping and so on, something related to the beliefs of the person. They are studied with the different sorts of the neurological experiments also are being done. The functions related to the heart and their studies are done. So those who are interested in, you may go through this article, Neurology of Death and the Dying Brain. And after all, they could be classified as something common experiences, very common, very frequent experiences of the death are being out of body experience, something like you being feeling outside the body, or entering a tunnel, seeing a bright light, feeling of peace. These are the highly, very common scenes. Incidents of these near-death experiences recorded also are quite varying according to the geography and the local beliefs. Those areas or those communities who have a belief, more belief in that celestial bodies, there the incidents of death experience are more, whereas in the other areas the incidents of death experience is lesser. Incidents of death experience also is depending upon the cause of death. If the cause of death is a sudden cause of death, like the motor accidents and drowning, etc., that near-death experiences are more frequently recorded. They can be recorded. In the chronic diseases, the incidence of near-death experiences are lesser. So, among those recorded near-death experiences in the present review, which I have referred to, the maximum incidence is about the motor accident, and the other experiences like syncope and electric shock, etc., they are comparatively lesser. So, the all that what I would summarize is that near-death experience is not something to be thrown out. It's a part of the issue which is now being studied, but a definite facts about the importance of that and utility of that near-death experience in the clinical field is not yet established. So there are certain new developments, new thoughts developing as such, and certain of those objective studies also are done about the near-death experience. And in that near-death experience, now they know that now the theory which establishes this is about a possible theory of spreading depolarization in the nervous system and spreading ischemia. These changes are that spreading ischemia and spreading depolarization are maximum in the evolved animal like the human being, whereas in the lesser animals, the animals of lower category, these changes at that time of the death, that depolarization spreading is not recorded. Of course, those in insects where there is no such a nervous system, it's not seen, but the chemical changes which are seen in the lower animals is lesser compared to what you see in the human being. So, that near-death experience, which is linked to the chemical changes of spreading depolarization and spreading ischemia in the nervous system, could be related to the evolution of the beings as such. That's the whatever we know about these near-death experiences in the current situation. Those who are interested in this, you may go through these articles, certain of those detailed articles which give you a bit more information about these near-death experiences from the current point of view. They are now can be read as such. I have given you the references. And near-death experiences are classified into three types as out-of-body type, mystical or white light type, or distressing type. These are how it's classified now as such. With this, we conclude this chapter also. It is Sushruta Samhitam Sutasthane Panchindriyarthavipratipatti Nama Trimshodhyayah. Near-death experiences are an enigma today. Ayurveda describes more classified analysis of such experiences and uses the information in as a prognostication tools. As with this, we will conclude today's class. If there are any questions, we will try to answer. Just curious to know what is the Tripada mantra. Tripada mantra is all the three Vedas. Sama Veda mantras. They are named as Tripadas or three Vedas. So in the initial days, it was only three Vedas. The fourth Veda, Atharva Veda, came in later after Veda Vyasa. So in classical theories, it's always about the three Vedas which are referred to. Right. Then any more questions? If there are no, right. Uh, any clinical experience on this? Uh, of course, about the dreams, I have some clinical experience. Mm, um, it's about maybe I say that the clinical experience of the dreams is in relation to the concern you have. I am quoting about an example of an experience of 1999 and 2000 years during that period. I had a patient of obstructed jaundice whom I operated upon, and what I found was that patient was investigated earlier in some other hospital, and the patient was suspected to be having a growth in the common bile duct. But looking at the CT scan, I felt that it may not be a growth; it could be a soft stone. But on exploration, I found a roundworm, lying roundworm in the common bile duct. We removed it and inserted a tube, and the patient recovered very well during the postoperative period till the phase of the T-tube removal. But once we attempted for the T-tube removal, before the T-tube removal, it has to be closed, no? The T-tube has to be closed. The moment it is closed, there was a leakage. And this process continued for the patient developed common bile duct inertia, that bile duct inertia as such, and hence the T-tube could not be removed easily. The normal T-tube, this CBD pressure should be 14 centimeters of water, but in this patient it had gone up to 40 centimeters of water. So when I connected a drip set or a bottle of saline to the T-tube, it could flow in only when I raised it up to 40 centimeters. Now I did all the experiments, anything like whatever we have done, and many times it even went to irrational levels, and the patient was in the hospital for more than 2 months almost. Every day there were some new experiments done, but didn't click anything. So it was really a frustrating experience, one of the most frustrating experience of my career during that period. And during that frustration, when it went to the stage where I could even lose sleep also. So one day in the fine morning, early morning, I had a dream of reading Charaka Samhita, and in Charaka Samhita Siddhisthana 8th chapter, the 13th shloka, I could see, and in the dream. The moment I got up, I looked at the book, it was exactly the same position, and I prepared a basti, Udavartahara basti, and that basti was given to the patient, and within 3 days the patient became normal, and we could remove the heat tube. Very interestingly, that patient was uh, uh, this, advised by some astrologer that if the patient goes to any other hospital, the patient would die. Of course, one of the other alternative possible treatment in that kind of inertia would be a dilatation of the ampulla of the bladder with the endoscope. At that time, we didn't have endoscope in our hospital. So when I asked the patient to go to some other hospital, the patient was not ready to go because some astrologer had advised. And the astrologer had advised that you have to get treated only through this person only, this physician only. And this had happened, and that dream, I still remember that dream of that seeing that Samhita and Udar Dharabasti, which is still being used in our hospital, is a product of the same. So that kind of an experience. So I don't say that it's all an absolutely true thing, but absolutely necessary in every patient. But I consider this as because of your concern about the patient. Because of the concern, I could see that. So that's one of the experiences, and there are of course a few more experiences, but it cannot be just denied. These facts of dreams producing having some effect cannot be totally denied as such. That's all. With this, I think we will conclude. We will not go much beyond that. Hmm? Right? Okay. Fine.
Thank you,
Thanks.
sir.
Right.